February 1943, Tunisia. Tiger tanks advance with the confidence of a weapon that has never been properly answered. The Tiger's 100 millimeters of frontal armor has already shrugged off everything the British have thrown at it. The 2-pounder bounces off. The 6-pounder struggles. Even the American 75 millimeter guns are useless beyond point-blank range. German tank crews behave like they are completely untouchable. Then, Hunt's Gap happens. Over several days of brutal fighting, Tigers are stopped by mines, battered by concentrated artillery, and immobilized under heavy fire. Some are abandoned, others are knocked out at ranges where British guns should be absolutely harmless. The losses are severe enough that battalion histories would later refer to this battlefield as the Tiger Graveyard. And in the middle of that chaos, British gunners introduce a weapon that looks almost comically oversized. Its barrel is so long, it seems impractical, mounted on an improvised carriage that was never designed to handle its ferocious recoil. The Germans have just met the 17-pounder, and the armor equation will never be quite the same. Act 2. Foresight over luck. What makes this story remarkable is not just what the 17-pounder did on the battlefield, but when the British actually started building it. Development began at a London meeting in November 1940. That is, more than 2 full years before the Tiger tank even existed. While German engineers were still drawing the preliminary blueprints for their heavy tank, British ordnance designers were already creating the exact weapon that would kill it. This was not luck. This was foresight on a level that would prove decisive. The problem they anticipated was straightforward. Tank armor was getting thicker, and everyone knew it. The 2-pounder anti-tank gun could penetrate perhaps 40 millimeters of armor at 500 yards. The 6-pounder would manage around 75 millimeters. But intelligence reports suggested the next generation of German tanks might carry 100 millimeters or more. The British needed something dramatically more powerful. The situation in the field confirmed this urgency. The Matilda tank, once the undisputed queen of the desert, was becoming vulnerable. The Crusaders' 2-pounder was painfully inadequate. Even the new Grants and Shermans arriving from America carried 75 millimeter guns optimized for infantry support, not tank killing. Against what was coming, they would be utterly helpless. On May 15, 1941, the Ordnance Committee formally authorized the development of a gun capable of penetrating 120 to 150 millimeters of armor at 730 meters. The specification called for a 3-inch caliber firing a 17-pound projectile at velocities no existing anti-tank gun could match. Crucially, they mandated that the gun be designed as one piece, common to both tank and anti-tank mountings. This seemingly bureaucratic requirement would later save the day. Act 3. Engineering the Beast and the improvised Pheasant. The designers faced an enormous challenge. To achieve the required penetration, the projectile needed to leave the barrel at over 900 meters per second, roughly 3 times the speed of sound. This demanded a barrel 55 calibers long, stretching over 4 meters, and a breech mechanism capable of handling chamber pressures that would destroy lesser weapons. The recoil forces alone would be tremendous. The massive split trail structure needed to absorb the immense recoil proved extraordinarily difficult to manufacture, and production fell behind schedule. By autumn 1942, Army intelligence learned that Tiger tanks were appearing in North Africa. British forces desperately needed the 17-pounder, but the proper carriages simply did not exist. The solution was pure British improvisation. Codenamed Pheasant, engineers mounted the 17-pounder barrel directly onto 25-pounder field gun carriages, creating a hybrid weapon that operated, in the words of one assessment, on the limits of its design. The carriages were never meant to handle nearly 3,000 feet per second of muzzle velocity, but they held together. British commanders were sending a weapon to war on equipment that might shake itself apart with every single shot. The gamble paid off at Medellin. The attack collapsed against the British gun line. The 17-pounder could penetrate Tiger armor at ranges where other Allied guns were useless. The era of the Pheasant eventually ended when proper carriages arrived, but the improvised guns had proven the concept under fire. Act 4. The Ammunition Revolution. To understand why the 17-pounder dominated, you have to look at the math. The gun fired a 7.7 kilogram projectile. At 500 meters, standard armor-piercing rounds penetrated 163 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. For context, the Tiger carried 100 millimeters of frontal armor. The Panther's turret was 110 millimeters. Both were easily within lethal range. Hold up! If this video is giving you value right now, smash that subscribe button and join the family. We're dropping content like this all the time, and you don't want to miss it. Hit subscribe. Let's keep growing together. Now, back to the video. But the real transformation came with a revolutionary new ammunition, armor-piercing discarding sabot, or APDS. The concept was elegant in its simplicity. A small, incredibly dense tungsten carbide penetrator sat within a lightweight sabot that fell away after leaving the barrel. Because the penetrator was smaller and the projectile weight was halved, muzzle velocity reached an astonishing 1,204 meters per second. The penetration figures were extraordinary. At 500 meters, APDS punched through 256 millimeters of armor. However, it wasn't perfect. Dispersion was noticeably worse than standard rounds, making long-range hits unreliable, and the ammunition remained scarce throughout the war. If you are finding this deep dive into British engineering interesting, consider subscribing. It takes a moment and helps the channel continue producing content like this. Now, back to what happened when the 17-pounder met German armor in Normandy. Act 5. The Sherman Firefly and the deadly cat and mouse. The weapon's most famous platform was the Sherman Firefly. Created through engineering ingenuity when the official A-30 Challenger tank failed, Vickers engineer W.G.K. Kilbourne did what everyone said was impossible. He fit the massive 17-pounder into a standard Sherman turret. He shortened the recoil cylinders, rotated the breech 90 degrees, and added an armored box to the back of the turret for the radio. The hull machine gunner was removed to make room for massive 17-pounder shells. The result was cramped, difficult to operate, and carried less ammunition. But none of that mattered. The Firefly could kill Tigers and Panthers at ranges where they could not effectively respond. By D-Day, 342 Fireflies were available. The distinctive long-barreled Shermans immediately became priority targets for German gunners. The threat was so serious that British units developed elaborate countermeasures. Crews painted the undersides of their barrels white to create an optical illusion of a shorter length. Others installed fake muzzle brakes halfway down the barrel, so they looked like standard 75mm guns from a distance. The long barrel was a blessing and a curse. It could kill anything on the battlefield, but its distinctive silhouette drew concentrated, immediate fire. The golden rule became shoot and move, shoot and move. Act 6. The Fall of the Tiger Ace. The most famous engagement came on August 8, 1944. Trooper Joe Ekins, the gunner on a Firefly named Veliki Luki, spotted Tigers advancing near Route Nationale 158. In approximately 12 minutes, Ekins destroyed 3 Tiger tanks and a Panzer IV. The regimental war diary recorded the specific turret numbers of the destroyed Tigers. Tank 007 is widely accepted as the vehicle of Michael Wittmann, the legendary German tank ace credited with 138 tank kills. The man who had terrorized British armor at Villers-Bocage 2 months earlier died to a weapon he never saw coming. Wittmann had carved his reputation by killing Cromwells and Shermans with impunity, but the Firefly changed the equation permanently. Act 7. The Legacy of the 17-pounder. Comparative analysis reveals exactly why the British gun dominated. Against the American 76mm, the 17-pounder penetrated significantly more armor at range. Astoundingly, it even out-penetrated the Tiger's own legendary 88mm gun, 118mm versus 101mm at 1,000 yards. British crews facing Tigers literally carried a weapon more powerful than what the Tiger itself mounted. The psychological impact was measurable. A German veteran later described surviving what he called the curse of the Firefly. Because of the sheer kinetic energy of a shell, traveling at 900 meters per second, a hit turned the interior of a tank into a death trap of ricocheting metal and lethal spalling. The hunter had firmly become the hunted. The greatest legacy of the 17-pounder was establishing the design philosophy for post-war British armor. The Centurion, often called the best tank of its era, was specifically designed around the 17-pounder. The success of this high-velocity gun eventually led to the legendary L7 105mm cannon, which became the NATO standard, arming tanks from America to Israel to Germany itself. Returned to Tunisia in February 1943. Those Tiger crews advancing confidently through the desert had every reason to believe themselves untouchable. They thought nothing the Allies deployed could threaten them at range. They were wrong. British engineers, working in a London meeting room more than 2 years earlier, had already built the weapon that would change everything. The gun looked oversized because it was oversized, deliberately designed to generate velocities no one else thought possible. In Normandy, it was the only Western Allied tank gun that could credibly take on Panthers and Tigers from the front. And everywhere the 17-pounder went, German heavy armor died. German engineering had produced the most feared tank of the war, but British engineering produced the gun that killed it.